The United States is deploying an assault ship and a missile battery to the Persian Gulf to bolster other military vessels already in the area. The US said the move is in response to a possible threat to US forces in the region by Iran, but they didn't specify the nature of that threat. Iran has dismissed the claim. The newly deployed vessels are the USS Arlington, which transports Marines and conventional landing craft, as well as the Patriot air defense system. They will join the USS Abraham Lincoln carrier that's already there. Now, for more, we're joined by Adnan Tabata, an independent analyst on Iran. Thanks so much for joining us. The US claims Tehran might be preparing to conduct what it's calling offensive operations against US forces or its interest. What evidence is there for this?
Well, there is the claim that there is evidence for it, but there is no information given to the media. And I really think at this point, we all have to be very cautious not to further amplify the voices of warmongers. The deployment of ships into the region had happened early April, and we are hearing about a new Patriot missile battery that goes into the region, while just a couple of, I think, days or weeks back, 4 of these Patriot batteries were taken out of the region. So there is a lot of talking going on, a lot of rhetoric adopted in order to create a situation in which everyone is basically highly concerned about a possible war, whereas on the ground, it's actually not really the case.
OK, but obviously there is military there, there's activity. How much pressure is this exerting on Iran?
The good thing is, on both sides, that politicians can always talk, but there are military generals, the security establishment on both sides that has satellite pictures. They have the evidence and they are watching what is actually happening on the ground. And they do not fall for sensationalist rhetoric or reporting. I'm not saying that you're doing sensationalist reporting, but others are. And therefore, in Iran, and that's the point I want to make, there is not that much debate about all what we are hearing out of Washington today.
OK. Iran has also said that it's suspending part of the nuclear deal agreed with world powers in 2015. What is Tehran hoping to achieve with this move, and how much support is there for this amongst Iranians?
Well, the calculation in Tehran, whether it will prove to be successful or not is a different question. But the calculation is that if we start a calibrated escalation of the situation by pointing out what moves we can take to withdraw gradually from the agreement while emphasizing that Iran wants to stay in the agreement, then with this clear roadmap, the other remaining parties of the JCPOA, of the nuclear agreement, will do more in order to safeguard it, meaning to ensure Iran gets the dividend it is actually supposed to get under the agreement. People in Iran inside the country have become more critical than ever about the actual value of the nuclear agreement because there is no real outcome for Iran. So I guess there has also been internal pressure on the government to basically do something.
Now, ties between Iran and the US have deteriorated massively, but Trump's actually said he wants Iran to call him. How likely is Iran to do that, would you say?
It is very interesting and important that you point that out, because on the one hand, we have this National Security Advisor, John Bolton. We have Secretary of State, Mike Pompeo. These two seem to be really willing to drag Iran into a war, whereas President Trump is not about war. We heard his wording during the election campaign. He was very critical of the global war on terror and the $7 trillion that the US has spent. So I really think Donald Trump, with all the weird kind of outreach that he does, wants to speak to Iran, whereas others in his administration do not want that. And that brings Tehran in a very awkward situation in which they have to think about, well, which side of the story should we actually believe? Is the president driving Iran policy or others? And that's why Iran cannot really respond to this kind of outreach by Trump at this point.
Adnan Tabata, an independent analyst, thank you so much.
My pleasure.